Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, episode 98.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.
Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richards. On today's episode, it's myself and Dr. Horatio Jug, and we're talking about resiliency in practice. And it involves a lot of different components in today's conversation: self-care, integrity. But really, we took off on a great rant just about probably, for many people, some of the reasons why they're not seeing the same success in practice that they have in their mind. And I think you're going to get a ton out of today's episode. Hopefully some motivation, some inspiration, and some action steps for you to take. As I've talked about in the past, coming up soon, we've been chatting in these pre-shows with all these different topics and conversations, and we've started to put some of that together, and we'll be launching and releasing that probably within the next month or two. So pay attention to some of that great content coming your way, and enjoy today's episode of Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic. Horatio, welcome back to Life by Design for Chiropractors.
I say this a lot, but I'm very happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you here. Today we're talking about resiliency. We've been talking about this in the elite group. Was it you just did a training video in there about resiliency or grit, or was that a blog post?
That sounds like a Mike Gibson topic. He knows more about this than I do.
Gotcha. So, and again, I've been talking about it with clients. We just talked about it on the Life by Design layperson podcast, and we thought it'd be a great topic to discuss with chiropractors. And so again, to repeat ourselves, resiliency, not just in practice, but in life, comes down to adaptability. And the conversation I had with my coaching client today was that the same things you're telling your patients apply to you. They were getting burnt out. They want to know how to address it. And it's not about addressing all the to-dos. And of course, having a better productivity system is important. But within that productivity system is building in times for you to grow your resiliency or take care of yourself. If we're going to use self-care as the example. And instead of figuring out, giving up an hour of a training session so you can answer 15 emails, you're far better off increasing your adaptability through the training session and getting more efficient at answering the 15 emails. Because when you lose or don't fulfill a requirement, say like movement or the training requirement, you decrease your efficiency, you decrease your brain function, you decrease, all of your energy. And what might take you an hour to answer emails maybe takes you 2 hours. And then you continually have this downward spiral where your adaptability keeps decreasing, your resiliency continues to decrease, and then you eventually just bottom out and you crash. So, I think it brings up the importance of self-care. And so we wanted to cover today some of the reasons self-care is important to you as a chiropractor, to you as a business owner, beyond just the ones that you probably obviously think about. So we want to dig into that, and we want to make sure that you have a good blueprint through Life by Design and the steps that we encourage you to take. And that way, for those who don't, you'll leave today in this episode with exactly what you need to be doing and why you should be doing it. So, Horatio, talk about why you think self-care, specifically as we talk about it today, why self-care as a practitioner is so important.
Well, we got to take a big step back and really look at what the purpose of our life is. And for me, the purpose of my life is to be happy. It's to do things that I deem important. If you want to say it another way, happiness is the goal. And in order to achieve happiness, there needs to be some type of values that you are pursuing. And a value is a thing, something that you want to gain or keep. So you have to be very clear at what it is that your practice actually represents, not only in terms of, taking care of the community and helping them, which I think gets far too much play in chiropractic. I'm a servant and I'm here to serve everybody, and more on what this means to you and, what would success actually look like what it actually looks to you. And I know that this is becoming the first step in your process when sitting down with somebody is you're actually asking them, what's important to you, simply because I know when I got started, and I know from talking to you when you got started, and I know meeting a lot of new chiropractors, the values that we take on in terms of what our practice represents are typically not our own. They're never thought out. So we're starting on a I think I can swear on this podcast, on a really shitty foundation, and it's impossible to build any type of lasting legacy or happiness on something that you're not even really sure that you want in the first place.
Yeah, speaking from deep experience of, trying to build the 3 or 4 or 500 visit a week practice because of the, what I thought at the time was the knowledge that once I did, I'd be happy, that once I did, I wouldn't have to work so hard, or once I did, I would have gotten there, and then other chiropractors would, look at me and, celebrate me and all the things that I had accomplished, or even more so, that I'd make it into the club, the club of awesome chiropractors that I would see speak from the stage. So that inspired me, when I would see them speak and hear them. And so unfortunately, that led me down a path of, not accomplishing those things at the time, not knowing why I wasn't accomplishing those things, and then just totally, crashing over and over and over again. So you're right. I think you have to start with this idea of, what is it that's important to me? What are my values? And if you do, and you have a clear idea of that, then, I think we're making the case here today. And the point of the podcast is that taking care of yourself is one of the major ways that you're going to do that. So if right now, you're a doc who isn't training, you're not exercising, you're not eating well, you're really off track with your health from a physical perspective and a mental perspective, today's podcast is really for you. You need to get back to the things that you once cared about. You need to get back to figuring out what's important to you. And that will then drive your desire to want to actually start taking care of yourself, once you know that that's a big component to actually start moving in that direction.
Yes, I totally agree. So now that we have a proper, foundation, let's talk about the actual definition. This is why philosophy is so important. Unless we're defining our terms and we actually know what it is that we're talking about, we're going to be completely lost. We're going to be lost at sea. So the purpose of self-care is to replace and fulfill the different areas of self that are missing, taking away from your happiness.
Right. So strategies and requirements.
That's it. So self-care today, when we look online, is I'm in a bathtub with a bottle of wine reading a book. Right? And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're missing that time with yourself, like if sitting there reading a book is something that brings you happiness, then you need to do more of it. However, I'm going to be willing to argue that unless you're practicing high self-awareness and you actually know what brings you happiness, what your goals are, what your values are, it can look different in the sense that, self-care could mean doing a workout. Self-care could mean I need to improve my practice, so I need to take a marketing workshop. I need to read a book about marketing. I need to do some more work, right? Because again, you're doing these things to feed your values, not to sit in the bathtub because, again, somebody else told you that that's the way to do self-care.
Well, yeah, I think the distinction here is we're not talking about, the luxurious feeling of your bathtub and a bottle of wine and kind of the, would you call it, hedonistic, type emotional pleasure that comes with certain things. And I'm not saying those things are bad, but, it's really fulfilling the requirements in that sense. And that's what self-care means. And so, we would consider, just like hopefully most of the doctors listening, those requirements to be the brain-body connection, physical movement, mobility, strength and conditioning, fuel, our psychological components. So having a vision, building our self-esteem, right? Having a plan and a strategy to accomplish that. We would consider those to be at least the major requirements in self-care. And one of the big reasons I think it's important, and we've mentioned this numerous times, is just the concept of integrity, right? This idea of living it to lead it, as we coined that term many years ago. It always struck me, Horatio, to go, even that chiropractic school, to walk in the back door, to see the teachers out having a dart, being super overweight. Or you go to the hospital, you want to see the sickest people. They're not just at the hospital as patients, they're there as healthcare workers. And you would think that healthcare workers who would see sickness and death and chronic lifestyle choices every day would be motivated to say, wow, I don't want to go in this direction, are completely unmotivated. And so the same is true for us as doctors. we need to really, really, really be different. It's also a great way to differentiate yourself from a marketing perspective. People recognize that about sometimes their physicians or healthcare practitioners or, nurses or dietitians. They'll say to me, well, I went to this dietitian, but they didn't really look like they should be giving me much advice on diet. Your patients are aware of this. And so, not to create a self-esteem issue for you if you're struggling with this, it's not that as much as it is that they see you working towards fulfilling those requirements, right? You don't need to be perfect at this. You don't need to be, have the chiseled physique and, have everything down to a T. It's, I understand what the requirements are and I'm working towards them just like you. And I have the knowledge base to help guide you. From a communication standpoint, going through it also gives you the ability to share your experience with people, right? And to share what has worked, what hasn't worked, what your struggles were, what your challenges were. And I think people will appreciate the authenticity, but what they won't appreciate is you not doing anything about it, yet telling them they should be doing it.
Yeah, yes. So, health in a way is an art in the sense that it's something that you're going to need to do every single day. So there's never going to be a place where you get there and you're there. It's like your technique in chiropractic. Like you keep practicing technique. There's always something to improve on. There's always something to tweak. Nobody has ever completely mastered it in the sense that, you're good and now you can put it on the shelf and never look at it again. So it's just the nature of what's required. And the reality of it is we're all on the same spectrum. Some people are further ahead and some people are further behind. So you don't, like you said, you don't need to be the number one person. You just need to be on that spectrum, conscious of it, working towards it. And that's what helps motivate and inspire other people to do it too.
Right. And I think your patients need to know, right? So whether it be through just the way that you're communicating, table talk, indirectly even, I was doing a workout today, or I made this, tried this smoothie, or, we had this awesome steak dinner, whatever it is, you're communicating to people that you're living the lifestyle. I think that's something that's really, really valuable and really important. And I do want to make this point, Cratio, because I think it needs to be said. You might say, well, I'm living the chiropractic lifestyle. But you know what the chiropractic lifestyle means most of the time? It means I get my spine checked. Awesome. I'd like to say regularly, which isn't always even the case, but I get my spine checked so I can do whatever else I want, right? I get my spine checked so I can totally eat what I want. I can do the workouts I want or the lack of workouts because I'm subluxation free. So I think it's people, listen, subluxation free is not equivalent to health. I can't repeat that enough times. It's been the underpinning of Life by Design for the last 10 years. Subluxation free is wonderful. Being subluxation free is part of fulfilling the requirement for optimal brain-body connection.
It's unique, right? There's no substitute for it.
That's right. There's no substitute for it. And that's one of the, unique selling propositions as a chiropractor who's practicing in the third paradigm. Nobody does what you do. So that's a wonderful piece to have. But the reality is you can be subluxation free and be sick, extremely sick. Just like you can have a great training program, be super, super amazing on your diet, but be super subluxated, I would make the case that you're also sick. And so when you look at the requirements for the body, optimal health is meeting all of the requirements to some degree. And, we've used a graphic before of, the gas tank, or a graphic of the bank account. This idea that, there are different pillars and different requirements and they all need to be met. So stop fooling yourself thinking that you can do whatever you want as long as you get your spine checked. That's the foundation. But you still need to meet the other requirements.
It's the Gin Tempo Fred Bard story. Patrick, my heart's only got so many beats and I ain't wasting them on exercise.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to sum it up in a good story for everybody.
If I'm subluxation free, Nate will figure out the rest. I can put whatever I want in and Nate will deal with it. And it's such garbage. It just, it's nauseating actually to even hear it anymore. It's been so out of our realm of conversation for the last 10 years. Just even think about the concept and to think that it's an accepted concept inside of chiropractic from, people who would consider themselves intelligent is mind-blowing to me. But neither here nor there. The point is it's a great starting point, guys. It's extremely important. I don't want to downplay the value of being subluxation free. and having your spine checked, and not just checked and corrected, but also measured and analyzed. So even in my practice, myself and our associate doctors go through testing. So I have a 6-month testing cycle for myself. So we do all the tests. I get my own biostructural score. My family, my children, my wife, all of us go through all the same tests. My parents are under care. They get tested every 6 months. I mean, it's either important to you or it's not. And if it is, you've got to take it seriously. You've got to have scheduled appointments. You need to know when you're getting checked, who's checking you. And then beyond that, yes, eating by design, training your body. How many times a week are you training, right? And if you're only training once a week or twice a week, why? You know, you're asking your patients to do their corrective exercises X number of times. Are you even doing those? You're asking them and encouraging them to be in a regular fitness program 3 and 4 times a week or move daily, but you're not. This eventually will eat away at the quality of your practice, no matter how good your day 1 and day 2 is, no matter how good your re-examination conversation is, because it's kind of like with your kids, right? No matter what you say, they're going to see what you do. And the same is true with your patients. No matter what you say, it's not going to speak as loudly as who you are and what you do. So just even from a profitability standpoint, Kratria, from a growth perspective, I mean, you want to build your practice, start to live exactly what you're telling people. And your mantra should be this, and this is what I've always told my patients. I will never, ever, 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 ever recommend you do something that I already don't do consistently.
I love that.
Right? That's it. That's integrity. And if you can't do that, then you have no business worrying about, I need to figure out how to run a Facebook ad. I need to know my next tactic, my next strategy. How I'm going to give away free pillows to get people in my practice. Like, seriously, why don't we just start with the most obvious thing, which is you, and build yourself up and have a regular routine to build yourself up to do exactly what you're telling other people to do, and then do that, and then just tell your patients about what you do.
Keep going. Amen. Like what do you want? You want the hallelujah.
I know. It's just, hopefully this gets across to people listening. There's no quick fix, whether it be physical health, mental health, or your practice health. It's simply doing what works. It's simply knowing the requirements, fulfilling them through the strategies, rinsing and repeating, measuring your statistics and metrics, changing paths where necessary, modifying strategy if needed, building your team, scaling, reinvesting over and over and over and over again. And as long as you're looking for the next thing physically, the next pillow that you need to sell, the next orthotic, the next, quick fix program, then you're going to have a practice full of the same people, right? You can't figure out why all these people are coming in and they're acute and they want to get fixed super fast. Yet your entire practice strategy is to figure out a way to fix your practice as fast as possible. Are you seeing this, people? Right? Like, are you seeing this? It is a direct microcosm. It's a mirror of exactly how you're trying to build your practice. You're getting those exact people that are trying to build their health in the same way, and you're mad at them. You're angry that they don't get it. Well, guess what? I'm angry that you don't get it.
So
please, before I keep going.
Listen, I can listen to this all day. So to bring it back to a more positive tone. So what's important to discuss is I hear this and I understand this, right? And I say to myself that I want this, but then when I get to doing this, I don't really like doing it. So there's 2 things here that need to be discussed. And the first one is, maybe, and this is a question that you need to ask yourself in all honesty, maybe it's just not that important to you. And that's okay.
Fair
maybe having 1,000 what you claim, maybe having, and again, this all goes back for me. You got to go back to your values at this point, and this is where it's a good time to reevaluate, right? Because here's the interesting thing about motivation: I have yet to meet a person who's not motivated to do the things that they love.
Right. Fair enough.
Right. Like you listen to
or value things they value.
Sure. Like Gary Vee is a great example. Here's a guy who's an entrepreneur and he's like, listen, I spent my 20s, building my business. Like I worked 7 days a week. I didn't take a weekend off. I didn't go into the city. I didn't party. I was building my business because that's what he wanted to do. So like, it's not like it was hard work and he was like, oh, poor me, this really sucks. I feel like I'm grinding. It was something that he wanted to do. Right. So aspect number one of this, if you're struggling to figure this out, if this sounds good, is to try to incorporate aspects of all these things that you actually love to do. Like, how can you learn to love exercise? How can you learn to love learning and reading? How can you learn to love, eating food that is appropriate? Because if you hate it, it's going to be really hard to continue to do it. Yes, there's one or two people who are rare exceptions who can fight through bitterness and pain like it's nobody's business. But for the rest of us humans, if we don't like it, we don't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking back in my life now, and a big turning point for almost everything that I can do now consistently is that I like doing it. Writing copy and having you and Mike cut it up because it's not good. That doesn't hurt my feelings. I like that. I like the process of trying to come up with something. I like the process of posting. How do you post on social media so much? I like doing it. I like seeing how people interact. How do you like training so much? I don't know. I just like moving my body. I feel blessed that I have to, right? So I'm sharing what's valuable to me. And if these things aren't valuable to you, or at least finding joy in them, then you're right. You are going to have nonstop tactics. Is going to be one slippery gimmick to the next slippery gimmick to trying to underhand people. None of the people I respect in chiropractic have practices like that, by the way. Everyone that I respect and everyone that I want to be actually loves being a chiropractor.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I think you've kind of hit a really important point. As much as these are requirements, ideally you figure out strategies and great strategies that tie in at least components that you enjoy. And I think the other piece of this is you'll learn to enjoy them more the more you do them.
For
sure. I think that's something that, at the start, you don't just bail out, oh, that wasn't fun. Some things take some time to find the parts in it that you enjoy. And
100%.
So guys, I hope that gets you thinking today and has you at least audit your existing self-care system. And of course, if you have questions or comments, we'd love to see you guys post them in. If you have comments about my heated rant, then post that in anywhere you see this as well, because I'm happy to get feedback and we're happy to start a conversation. And again, we love this stuff. So thank you for listening in. Go to the show notes, lifebydesignforchiropractors.com/podcast. Find today's episode. And thank you for listening to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic.